on, the referee. They're gonna stop this. They're gonna stop.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of her upcoming WBC interim title defense this weekend, unbeaten up-and-comer Sky Nicolson stated, "To be done with the Olympics, it's changed my mindset and my approach. I'm a lot more spiteful, and you'll start seeing that in the ring." This fight with Lucy Wildheart, it stands out to me. It stands out to me because usually what you've seen in Sky Nicholson's fights is that she's got a bit of a height advantage and a bit of a reach advantage over her opponents, whereas Lucy Wildheart, she's no short, stumpy fighter, no short and stout fighter. She's got a bit of height and a bit of length of her own.
For an outside fighter, outside jabber like Sky Nicolson, height and length.
These are tools that she often uses. The pot shot her opponents from the outside, from a safe distance, moving around. Though an opponent with a bit of height and a bit of length of their own could greatly affect Sky's ability to do that. Unless we forget, it's not outside the realm of possibility that one of Matchroom's unbeaten up-and-comers could get upset. It's happened before. It happened to Gary Cully. It happened to Ramla Ali the first time she fought Alejandra Guzman. I'm not telling you that Lucy is about to shock Sky Nicolson so much as if she did.
This is a potential banana skin for Sky. Sky, who sports a professional record of 8 wins, no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, not yet.
Not a very big puncher. To Lucy Wildheart's 10 wins with 2 losses, no draws, and 4 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 12 professional bouts. Those 2 losses, they came at the hands of naturally bigger women than Sky Nicolson. Sky, who's already not big on power.
Whereas Lucy's got some pop. She's got 4 recorded knockouts, and we know she's durable. She's fought well above featherweight against Olympic gold medalist Estelle Mosley, against former unified super featherweight champion Michaela Mayer, and she wasn't knocked down or knocked out. So if she could take their power, take their punch, feels like she'll be able to take Sky Nicholson's.
Lucy wasn't fighting at her normal weight when she fought those 2 fighters. Naturally bigger women than Sky Nicholson. Sky, who's not all that big a puncher anyway. Lucy's coming right off that unanimous decision loss to Michaela Mayer, but she did acquit herself well in that fight. She didn't look out of place.
And that was in April of this year. That's saying that Lucy Wildheart has fought in the last 12 months, and she doesn't have any ring rust that she needs to shake off. Sky's been busy. She already fought 3 times this year.
This weekend's fight makes 4. I feel they've done a great job of keeping Sky active since she debuted as a professional, keeping her busy and regularly getting her out there. I actually have no complaints about who it is Sky has been fighting, the kind of fighters that she's been fighting, though this fight is a deviation from that.
Lucy Wildheart has more height and more length than many of Sky's previous opponents. She's not a short, stumpy, slow-footed plotter. You can see she's got some athleticism, she's got some coordination and snap on those punches, good variety, head shots, body shots.
I mean, this could turn out to be a tough night at the office for Sky Nicolson. You say that Lucy Wildheart is coming right off that loss to Michaela Mayer, but Michaela's a lot taller and a lot stronger and a lot more experienced than Sky Nicolson is here today. Sky Nicolson, who we usually see fighting shorter, stumpier fighters with slower feet and slower hands. They don't have Lucy Wildheart's ring coverage, that she doesn't need to be right upon Sky to touch her because she's got a bit of height and length of her own.
And when Lucy Wildheart landed the Michaela Mayer fight, that was on short notice, you understand. That was a short notice fight because Christina Linardatu could not receive approval from the BBBOC, whereas for this fight with Sky, Lucy's had a full camp and full notice.
This is not a short notice fight for Lucy, and she's had more time to prepare for Sky Nicolson than what she had to prepare for Michaela Mayer.
You can see that mid-range to inside Lucy Wildheart is a bit of a body puncher. How is Sky Nicholson gonna take that?
If Lucy starts to land those shots, those punches, this is a 10-round fight. Not many of Sky Nicholson's opponents have been able to get close to her in the past. Those shorter, stouter, stumpier, and slow-footed plotters.
They couldn't, but perhaps Lucy Wildheart can. And if she does, I'm curious to see what Sky's reaction is going to be. How is she going to deal with that? She says that she's going to start showing a lot more spite. And for what it's worth, she did in her last fight with Sabrina Perez.
But Lucy Wildheart is a taller drink of boxing, a more athletic drink of boxing than Sabrina Perez, and really many of Sky Nicholson's previous opponents. So this is a genuinely intriguing fight, and what will be a defense of Sky Nicholson's WBC interim title. They still want that Serrano fight. They say they do. We'll see if they make it there. No reservations for me.
Maybe Sky shows us another gear, or maybe Lucy turns out to be a banana skin. We'll see.
In men's lightweight and super lightweight news, Ryan Garcia, ahead of the Oscar Duarte fight, says, Davis can't sell pay-per-views. He should thank me for propping him up. I blessed him with $30 million.
One might feel so inclined to ask, how can Ryan Garcia say this with a straight face? Davis's last pay-per-view doing as well as it did.
He's gonna have to come to me. Do you know why? Because he can't sell pay-per-views. Garcia told BoxingScene.com in an interview, he can't be a star if he's doing 150 buys before fighting me. How can he be a star? I propped him up. Remember that. I gave him some stardom. Now he's popping. You need two fighters to tango. So if he thinks he can come back and fight some random dude and do a pay-per-view, he's not. But we'll see what he does. Davis has starred in 6 straight pay-per-view events and has been a multi-city draw across the United States during that stretch, beating the likes of Mario Barrios and Leo Santa Cruz, Isaac Cruz, Rolando Romero, and Hector Luis Garcia along the way. It is true that Gervonta Davis, as far as what he can do at the gate, as far as selling tickets, he can sell tickets, but to broadcasters,
that's not important.
The way it works, gate revenue, that's for the promoters, that's for the boxing people. The broadcasters, what they care about are metrics, big ratings or big pay-per-view buys.
And Gervonta has only ever brought them big numbers once, with Ryan Garcia's help.
At the end of the day, they are all going to need me, and that's just facts, said Garcia. I can make way bigger fights than Davis than he can make by himself. So he's going to have to see me for the money because he likes money. He should be thanking me. I just blessed him with around $30 million. He should be like, damn, all right, you're a good guy. But he's always poking jabs and talking shit because he knows that wasn't me in that fight. If Gervonta Davis were every inch the fighter that his fans claim he is, why would he need to use a rehydration clause and a catch weight for Ryan Garcia? If it were a champion, if it were a more seasoned fighter, I could understand.
I would have understood.
Though when it gets to a point that you're using catch weights and rehydration clauses on what can only be described as a glorified prospect, not a champion, not an established fighter, it communicates apprehensiveness. It communicates weakness, that you don't want to roll the dice under any circumstances, not even against the guy that you are heavily favored to beat. Even without the weight stipulations, I would have picked Gervonta to beat Ryan Garcia, though it's a poor showing that they didn't feel comfortable enough to put Gervonta in the ring with this guy unless they could use catch weights and rehydration clauses. What Ryan is detailing here is his desire to do a second fight, do a rematch with Gervonta Davis at a better weight that better suits him, and he has all the leverage because he's saying Gervonta can't put up the numbers that he put up with Ryan with just anybody, which, at least statistically, is true. Before he fought Ryan Garcia on pay-per-view, Gervonta was on pay-per-view 5 times. He never once came close to 1 million or even 500,000 buys in any of those 5 fights. Currently, he's in the market for an opponent.
Ryan is taking the gloves off. He's saying it outright. How could Gervonta Davis be a star doing the kind of numbers that he has been doing? That Gervonta, he can't sell pay-per-views.
One might feel so inclined to ask, well, why does Ryan feel like he's in any position to talk? His next fight isn't a pay-per-view.
He wasn't on pay-per-view before he fought Gervonta, and He's not on pay-per-view now, so what gives him the right?
And it's because the people at Golden Boy Promotions and DAZN aren't stupid. They're not stupid enough to put Ryan Garcia's fights behind a paywall, limiting how many eyes they can get on them. They're not going to make the same mistake that the people at Showtime made, and rest assured, it was a mistake. It was a mistake to put Gervonta's last 5 fights before Ryan on pay-per-view, because that put a cap on how many eyes you could get on them and how many eyes you could bring to your network. If those fights weren't box office fights and they were on regular Showtime, Gervonta might have brought the network upwards of 1 million to over 1 million viewers with those same fights. But when you charge people $80 for fights they weren't even asking you for,
don't expect a lot of people to buy them. And a lot of people didn't.
If you're still wondering why exactly did Showtime end up leaving the sport of boxing, it's not hard to figure out. Their boxing content was not bringing them enough eyes. We've already been through this. If the numbers would have been better, Chris McCarthy and the people at Paramount would have decided to keep their boxing programming, but because the numbers were so low,
they decided they didn't need it anymore. It's not hard to understand. No network and no network executive is going to get rid of content that is actually bringing them viewers and bringing them eyes. Showtime Boxing's content wasn't.
Though it could have. If so many of Gervonta Davis's fights that nobody was really asking for, if so many of those fights weren't hidden behind a paywall, if they were on the regular network instead, available to all those existing subscribers, who knows? Maybe he could have brought in 1 million or over 1 million viewers, over 1 million homes with every single one of those fights. And those numbers would have lent themselves to Showtime's continued existence in the sport of boxing.
So then why did they decide to put Gervonta Davis on pay-per-view? If the decision was as counterintuitive as you say, what led to that?
The $7 or $8 million that Eddie Hearn was offering Gervonta Davis in 2019, I think it might have something to do with that. I think it was always Mayweather Promotions' intention to turn Gervonta Davis into a pay-per-view attraction. I think that was always their intent. But those plans may have been accelerated due to the money that Eddie Hearn offered Gervonta Davis to come over to their side of things and box Tevin Farmer, then IBF Super Featherweight champion at that time. Gervonta had the WBA, and he wasn't on pay-per-view yet.
Eddie Hearn offered him all that money, but Gervonta was advised to turn it down. To compensate him for the money that he just rejected from Matchroom, the people at Showtime decided, let's put him on pay-per-view.
That'll compensate him for the money that he just rejected from Matchroom. That'll make up for it. The following year, in October of 2020, late 2020, he debuts on pay-per-view opposite the ring, Leo Santa Cruz.
In a fight that nobody was asking for. What people wanted to see from Gervonta was a Lomachenko fight, not a Santa Cruz fight.
And that's how he got there.
And he's been there ever since. But the numbers he's put up, they haven't been robust. Not up until he shared the ring with Ryan Garcia. Ryan understands that.
And Ryan wants a rematch, with the understanding that Gervonta can't just go out there with anybody, not just anybody, and put up the kinds of numbers that he put up with Ryan. In Ryan's own mind, that gives him leverage. And I think he's right. Ryan has more options for decent-sized fights and big fights than Gervonta has at this time. I mean, who is Gervonta gonna fight? Isaac Cruz again? Frank Martin? Maybe Edwin De Los Santos? Some of those fights are interesting, some are decent, but you won't do with them what you did with Ryan. So when Ryan says that he wants a second fight, he wants a rematch with no weight stipulations,
he's got some leverage. There seems to be a plan in play to put Ryan Garcia in the ring with Teofimo Lopez next year. And if they do that, and say Gervonta ends up fighting Isaac Cruz again, which fight of those two fights do you think will do bigger numbers?
It's a legitimate question. Ryan Garcia says that he's tired of the disrespect, admits that he's been at 50% for so long. It's going to be different. I promised that to myself, Garcia wrote on his Instagram account to his 10.2 million followers. I don't care about anything but becoming a world champion. My eyes used to care about social media and what that did for my career. Now, I don't care. I'm ready to win.
The caveat to Ryan Garcia's plan and whatever leverage he feels he has over Gervonta and everyone else moving forward is that he has to win his next fight. He has to be able to make it past Oscar Duarte.
Throws a monkey wrench in the whole goddamn thing if he can't beat that guy. If he can't make it past him, there go any plans for a Lopez fight at some point next year and any plans for a Gervonta Davis rematch if he loses. But if he wins...
This upcoming Oscar Duarte fight will be Ryan Garcia's first fight with Derek James in his corner. We'll see what improvements, or the lack thereof.
We have to see how he looks. He's had some very big-name trainers in his corner the last 4 or 5 years. Anyone from Eddie Reynoso to Joe Goosen, now Derek James.
And he's been training with Derek for months now.
Saying, I'm not sweating the loss to Tank. I didn't feel at my best. That's why the loss didn't sting that bad.
The loss in and of itself is not the end of the world. Ryan Garcia is a young fighter with many good years left. And so long as he can rebound off that loss, he's still in the game. He's still in the race. He knows what he's worth.
Now Garcia is attempting to pick up the shattered pieces and carry on. December is the date he officially has circled on his calendar for the Oscar Duarte fight as that comes to town, although his focus is fully on a hard-hitting contender. Garcia went down memory lane for a moment. Losing to Davis wasn't something that he enjoyed, but Garcia is comforted by a few factors that were out of his control. It didn't shake me on my confidence too much, admitted Garcia to Morning Combat on the Davis loss. I didn't feel like I was at my best in that fight. That's why it feels like the loss didn't sting that bad.
My thoughts.
A lot of what Ryan Garcia is saying is true, at least in reference to Gervonta Davis. No, he's not as big a draw as he's made out to be. 150 or 200,000 pay-per-view buys, those numbers are not the year mark of a star. And without Ryan, who is he going to fight to put up robust numbers like he did with Ryan? Who else is out there that would help him draw that much? It's not Frank Martin. It's not Edwin De Los Santos. And no, it's not Isaac Cruz. While I do think a rematch with Isaac would do better numbers than the numbers they put up with their first fight, they're not going to come anywhere near the numbers that he put up with Ryan.
In a word, Ryan is right about that stuff. Gervonta can't get out there with just anybody and do big numbers because he hasn't been doing big numbers.
He hasn't.
Not until he fought Ryan.
In the subsequent days, weeks, and months that have followed their initial meeting, you've seen a conscious effort from the Gervonta Davis faction of fans to minimize Ryan's contribution to the show as if he had nothing to do with its commercial success, as if it were Gervonta and Gervonta alone that sold that thing. Well, if that's true, how come he wasn't putting up those kinds of numbers before he fought Ryan?
The go-to response from those guys is to say that, well, Ryan's next fight isn't a pay-per-view.
So if they wanted it to be, they could stick it on pay-per-view and do the same kind of shitty numbers that Gervonta's been doing for years. They could do that, but they're not stupid. Why would you do that when that limits how many eyes you can get on a fight?